Hello, this is Pharaoh Vincent with Nation 506, and I wanted to close out a chapter of videos that we have been making together regarding how to get free power within AOZ. In our first video, we discussed how to get all of the various components and things that you should be doing every day to collect and to gather. In our next videos, we talked about officers and what order to level them in. We talked about equipment and where to prioritize and to level for equipment and some tips on that. And most recently, our technology and what order should we upgrade our tech in. This final video is going to focus on officer skills. So we're going back to officers, but the reason I wanted to keep this separate was because it was going to be a little bit of a longer topic, and there's not a set of answers. This is also going to be something that's going to take you time. If you're extremely lucky, you might be able to get this done within a few days, months, weeks, right? If you're extremely unlucky, like me, you'll still be trying to get your 6th melee hit point. So I want to just briefly go through the skills and what my logic is behind them. And then I'm going to, on each of the officers, tell you if the breakthrough skill is worth it or not. Breakthrough skills are what you can get at 5 stars. You get a choice between either getting a 6-star or their breakthrough skill. So for the officers, I don't recommend. I do recommend getting their 6-star officer skills first before going back through to get their breakthrough skill. Eventually you can get all of them, but it's going to take you an incredible amount of time because fragments are hard to get without spending money. So with that, let's start off with our directors. You're going to be using IMADC. IMADC, I am using Processing, Load, and Mineral Expert. And the reason behind these three is resource output is a very good skill, but it's not good enough for me to put in skill books. If you notice, I have all of these at level 1 for a reason. Your directors do not help you in combat. These skills do not help me in combat. And the resources, while nice to have, are not going to make me stronger. It's okay if you have levels in them. I wouldn't re-skill them if you do, but I'm not going to bother wasting skill books on something that's not going to help me, really get the power that I'm looking for. I also have their breakthrough skill EMP bomb. It's extremely useful. It's also really easy to get. When it comes to directors, you're going to get more fragments of them than anyone else in this game. I have not spent any money on IMADC, and I am at 5 stars with his breakthrough skill of EMP bomb, and I have not spent anything. I've gotten all of his fragments as well as Doc. I've gotten all of their fragments through Z coins and through lucky random draw from, elite recruitments and the various officer chests. Speaking of which, Doc has the same skills, so the same is true. His breakthrough skill is okay. I'm not going to say it's groundbreakingly good, but it is better than FMADC's skill, which it just gives you damage reduction. I haven't even bothered unlocking it with FMADC, as you can tell. And that's when you're attacked damage reduction. So you have to have your city physically attacked in order for it to go off, which is why it's not that great. Bomb Expert is good, though, so absolutely get his breakthrough skill. For both of your directors, I would not even bother thinking about a 6-star skill until you get these level 18 because there's no combat advantage to the skills they give you. Morgan. The skills you're looking for a combat city on Morgan are First Aid, Raid, and Medicine. And the reason being is Raid and Medicine, which I do have here on Brave Star, and I'll explain why I don't have them in a little bit, increase your fleet speed, increase your healing speed, and the most important skill pretty much in the game is First Aid. And the reason behind that is the more your wounded ratio, or the higher your wounded ratio, the more of your troops come home when you go out to attack during a void. or if you're in the middle of civil war or fighting within your nation. The higher this number is, the more troops come home. That's going to save you time. Time is the most important thing in this game, and that skill is more important than anything else that I can possibly say, because it's going to save you time. And the more time you save, the less you're recruiting, the more troops you have, the stronger you are. It is that simple. For Morgan, you're not going to bother with his breakthrough skill unless you're the only person in your alliance that has that ability and you have the biggest fleet to start with. If you have a massive fleet and you're the person in the alliance that's kind of dedicated to doing it, I highly recommend getting it at that point, but only if your alliance needs you to get that skill. If they don't, then I'd recommend focusing on his 6-star skills, and that'll help you to maximize your fleet size. Saki, same skills as Morgan. Again, I have Fuel Up and Comprehension because I put them on there a very long time ago. I put a bunch of levels into them, and those monsters are helping based on my daily attack. I haven't gotten to a spot where I desperately need the increased fleet speed or medicine, and I'm not quite ready to switch out my officers yet. Her breakthrough skill is really good. It is almost as good as her 6-star skills, but I do recommend getting her 6 stars before getting her breakthrough skill, only because the statistics you're getting for her breakthrough skill, specifically the statistics that you get from her Blood Everywhere skill, is really decent. I mean, 36% at level 18 is nice. But having a bigger fleet may be better in this instance, especially with some of the recommendations I'm going to be making down the road. You know, these flat increases percentage-wise are really good for a solid base to work from, but are not required. I would not be upset if you got this skill after getting about 3 of her 6-star skills. If you got, increases your total troop size, increases your troop size in cross-nation events, and fleet speed probably, or even healing. There's a few things that you can pick up that would be really good. It's up to you, but I do recommend getting 6 stars first. The good news is Katie and Simon, our drill masters, are very easy to understand. You don't get to pick their skills, but would I put skill books into them? Not a lot. And there's a reason behind that. With their skills, it is a reduction of attack, which means that it's going to reduce the enemy or increase your attack on an enemy with an additive or subtractive bonus. It's not multiplicative. What does that all mean? It means that you're getting a bigger base or lowering your enemy's base before adding in all of the other percentages that get put into this game. It is taking care of the base components, which is nice, but it's not going to be as big as if that set increases damage. For that reason, I do recommend leveling them, and I also recommend getting their breakthrough skills on both of them. I don't want to explain in detail what they are because it's really simple. They have a breakthrough skill, both of them, that work on every single combat throughout the entire day. I tend to prioritize those, and I do prioritize both of theirs in the sense that it is better than their 6-star skills. Katie is better at 6 stars than Simon for long-range players. Mid-range players should focus on Simon's 6-star first, as he does have mid-range attack available as a 6-star skill. And we'll go into a video on 6-star skills very specifically when I get more 5-star officers, but also when, we go down the road, because that's something that's a very far out future for most people. War officers all should look like Tifa for this one, where Tifa in my city has my attack of choice, which in this case is long range. If you're mid-range, you're going to use mid-range, and if you're melee, you're going to use melee. Pick one. Really seriously pick one and focus on that. Because you want to get your attack for your modality, right? Whatever mode you're going through, melee, mid-range, or long range. You want the expert, and then you want melee hit points. I don't care if you're a mid-range city. I don't care if you're a long-range city. I don't care if you're a melee city. You want melee hit points as your third skill. Because the HP, or hit points, or health points, whatever you want to call them, is going to increase the amount of hits that those troops are going to take, which is going to make them last longer, which is going to give you more chance to win. It's that simple. The reason why I do not prioritize defense is just because the defense skill doesn't seem to do a lot, right? When you factor in people's attack versus defense, generally speaking, the defense isn't subtracting enough from the attack to really make it worthwhile for me. I haven't seen defense really win fights, but I've absolutely seen health win fights. Also, when we get into some troop information down the road, I'm going to talk a lot about health and why that's important if you're going with what is, I think, arguably one of the more optimal fleets at T10 and T12, but is a pain to get. So we'll talk about that down the road. For breakthrough skills, and again, all of the officers will have these skills. For breakthrough skills, there are two notable people in the war officers, specifically Tifa and Airstrike is very good. This is an area of effect. It attacks up to 6 targets. It does a ton of damage. And it really adds up. I, of course, am holding on to this because it is the last day of the AOZ bar, so I will be upgrading this shortly. All of your war officers you want to get to 6 stars pretty much as soon as you can. So it is a little bit of a priority switch because, you know, you want to make sure that for most of them you're getting the 6 stars, but for Tifa, I do make an exception. Panda, his breakthrough skill isn't required, and I'm going to tell you why. This doesn't increase the amount of troops you kill during a fight. This reduces the amount of troops that your enemy has wounded and kills them. So why is that important? If somebody's going to get hit more than once, ever, in a void, frenzy, civil war, I don't care. Well, not frenzy, but in a void or a civil war, if somebody's going to get hit more than once, this skill did absolutely nothing. Because the next hit is going to make those wounded go right back into that spot that you've opened up. The skill's actually fairly useless in that regard. So, again, I would get it if you have all of his 6-star skills and you have him perfectly statted out the way you want him to. Alexandria's tricky because I like the skill. I love rescue. Again, we're going back to that part at the beginning of this video where I'm talking about first aid. And this is basically first aid on steroids, because with this skill and with a high enough first aid, you're not going to have troop loss for an hour, which is really good. That gives you an hour to just hardcore beat people up and fill up your hospital and then spend the rest of your week, you know, healing those troops or spending speed ups to do it. But I still recommend getting Alexandria to 6 stars because this is only good for an hour. So for 1 hour, you're going to be amazing. And for the rest of that 23 hours during Void, this isn't going to help you. So I don't recommend it. Stormbow, pretty much the exact same thing as Alexandria, but with one caveat. This is damage. Increased damage. That is huge. Damage, like you'll hear me say this a lot, increases damage is a multiplicative bonus, meaning you take all of the calculations and you multiply it. So if you have 700%, well, we'll make an easier one. If you have 1,000 long range attack, your LRA is 1,000%. This right here is going to add an additional 240. So that means it's effectively 1,240. It's a big bonus. But my issue is it's one city for 12 hours. So it's even more useless than this skill right here that works for 1 hour. Why? Because it is a single city for 12 hours. You're going to get his 6-star skills. Stormbow, or sorry, not Stormbow, Zeus. Zeus is a very good officer. Just in general, I highly recommend that this is one of the ones you prioritize. Him and Alexandria are the best two. If you watch my previous video, you'll understand why I say that. His breakthrough skill is also very good. Why? It works on every single attack, no matter how many people you go into during the course of a day. It works on all of them. I do recommend getting his breakthrough skill, and I also recommend getting him 6 stars at some point. And last, but certainly not least, is Aeon, because this guy doesn't count. We don't like Kingsley. I guess before I get to Aeon, I will be honest about Kingsley. There is something you can do, and I do recommend. When you get Kingsley up to 5 stars, which, by the way, if you notice, I put tower defense on him, because I'm never going to equip him for any serious thing. I just have them there so that, well, I can feel better about myself. Kingsley's the one person I do recommend getting his breakthrough skill. If you have enough fragments, don't spend money on him. Please do not spend money on Kingsley. He's not worth it. This game will throw his fragments at you and you'll get it for free. But you do want to get his breakthrough skill at some point because you can equip him. You can use his breakthrough skill and then you can unequip him and send your troops out and still get the benefit. So you can gain his benefit without actually having to use him. And because it reduces damage, that LRA mentioned earlier about 1,000% and gaining 240, well, technically 245, is this same's true here, except in a reduction. So now your enemy has got a 750% long range attack rather than 1,000. Which brings me lastly to Aeon. So Aeon's breakthrough skill only lasts for an hour. It is an amazing breakthrough skill for a few things. I just don't know that you should get it before getting her 6 stars. Personally, I would get her 6 stars first. And I will be doing that myself. However, the thing that I will caveat to her breakthrough skill over everyone else's is simply that in events like Triangle War and Duel for Dominance and those kinds of events where you're setting your troops at the beginning of an event, you can activate her skill and it will last through the entire event. So there is a benefit to having her skill, as it is a skill that affects your troops in combat. If you notice the difference between her and Panda, Panda just makes it so that when you attack somebody solo, you kill more troops. When you're talking about Alexandria, her breakthrough skill is giving you additional wounded ratio, basically, for the attacks you're doing. These are not going to help you in most events. You can't target a city in Triangle War, so this doesn't help you. Her skill has a combat effectiveness, which means it is the best of the 1 hour buffs. However, it's still not better than getting 6 stars. I do recommend getting it, but I hope that kind of helps to understand why I would say that this one is like a 50-50 priority, right? Like, you can go either way, and I wouldn't be upset at you depending on what you prioritize as a player. But yeah, I know this is a bit of a longer video. Sorry, but I really wanted to go into a good level of detail, and I knew this was going to be a longer video. So thank you guys so much for sticking around this long. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my priorities in the comments. Feel free to message me. I'm going to do the YouTuber thing and say, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm, making more and more of these videos. I'm starting to really enjoy this, and I really do want to grow this channel up to help people not make the same mistakes I did. So I appreciate all of the work that everyone does. I appreciate everyone. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you so much for your time.